Good morning, everyone. And we were doing this chapter in English called The Kite Maker. And if you remember, we did the first two pages of the chapter. And I request each one of you to go through it again. It's a lovely lesson. You see that I expect that you all must have written the name of the lesson and the writer, Ruskin Bond, in the index as well as in your copies next chapter. I hope that you all must have done the word meanings of the chapter and must have learnt it also. So, as we were doing the chapter, The Kite Maker, we know that there was a man called, uh, sorry, a boy called Ali, who had his grandfather who lived in Bali Ramnath, and the boy was flying a kite when it got entangled in
मैम
a
की आवाज देखिए
grasshopper.
कितनी खूबसूरत है.
Will you please switch off your mic? It got entangled with a banyan tree next to the which had grown up next to the uh, mosque which was there, and the child came shouting to his grandfather asking that the kite had got stuck and it had gone. So the grandfather felt very bad because he was the best kite maker of his time. But now, since very few children uh, flew kite, and also he was old, so he could not teach Ali how to fly the kite properly. He also was daydreaming. Then there was a description given how he looked. He had dyed his red um, um, beard with that mehendi leaves, and that is why it appeared red. So there were wrinkles on his face, and the description of the old man is given to us. Then we talk of his daydreaming, how he used to make kites, and now everything is all in vain because now very few people flew kites. The adult people had already given up flying kites. The children, they preferred going to watch a movie instead going to the cinema. They preferred going to the cinemas instead of flying kites. And on top of it, with the growth in the city life, there were very few spaces, open spaces left in the area where the people could gather and fly kites. So we had done these two pages. Now we come on to the third one, which is on your screen right now. I will read from here. But the old man remembered a time when grown men flew kites and great battles were fought. The kites swerving and swooping in the sky, tangling with each other until the string of one was severed. Then the defeated but liberated kite would float away into the blue unknown. There was a good deal of betting, and money frequently changed hands. So now, even in old Lucknow, if you visit even today, you will find that people still have interest in kites. So he's thinking of the old times when people really were into flying kites. There were proper days assigned for the flying, and there were open spaces where the people came up with their kites, with different colored kites, and they played, and even the kite battles were fought. There were people who were always flying, and they kept flying on till one of the kites was severed. Okay, it broke. One of them lost and uh, was cut. Okay. So there were frequent bettings also. What is betting? शर्त लगाना कि कौन सी kite जीतेगी, कौन सी कट जाएगी. That is called betting. Okay. And many a times money was also involved in it. Okay. People paid the money if they won and if they lose. Like the kite flying was then the sport of kings, and the old man remembered how the Nawab himself would come down to the riverside. So even Ali's grandfather, he remembered the time when the kite flying was a hobby, even of the Nawabs. So you can understand, even the upper authorities found it a great sport, and they would come to the riverside to fly kites with his retinue to participate in this noble pastime. Retinue is this, along with the Nawabs, all his jing bang, all his other followers used to accompany him, and it was a noble pastime at that time in the olden days. There was time then to spend an idle hour with a gay, dancing strip of paper. Now, in those times, people had time to spend at least 1 hour or two in just flying kites and look at the dancing colorful paper in the sky. Now everyone hurried in a heat of hope, and delicate things like kites and daydreams were trampled underfoot. So now he's comparing the olden times to the present times, where he says कि in the olden times people did have time for kite flying. Now people are in such a rush, they don't find it uh, appropriate to live up to this kite flying hobby, and they have given up the kite flying, and daydreaming kind of things have been trampled underfoot. That means they have been crushed badly underfoot. Now he, that is Mahmood the kite maker. Now the old man till now was referred as old man in this chapter. It is now that we come to know about his name, Mahmood. Okay, the kite maker had in his prime of his life been well known throughout the city. Some of his more elaborate kites once sold for as much as 3 or 4 rupees each. So in those times when they were on the what do you say, the currency was too less. In those times also, he sold the kites in 3 to 4 rupees, which was a big amount. That means he was the most elaborate kite maker in his prime time. That means at the time when he was young. So his kites were so elaborate, so nicely made, that they were quite high in their prices also. At the request of the Nawab, he had once made a very special kind of kite, unlike any that had been seen in the district. It consisted of a series of small, very light paper discs trailing on a thin bamboo frame. To the end of each disc, he fixed a spring of grass, forming a balance on both sides. So now, once he had made a very elaborate kite, so it had strings, it had grass around to keep the balance, and everything was very flashy when he had made on the request of the Nawab. Now, coming to the next page, I hope the screen shows you. Yes, I'm trying to show you. Okay. The surface of the foremost disc was slightly convex, and the fantastic face was painted on it. So there was a uh, proper kite which was made, and it had a face also made with two shiny eyes. The eyes were made from the mirror, the small mirror which we decorate our uh, um, clothes, etc. Those small circular mirrors, they were placed in place of the eyes of the kite, and it appeared as if the kite was a creature with eyes, etc. on it. Now the disc decreasing in size from head to tail assumed an undulatory form and gave the kite the appearance of a crawling serpent. It required great skill to raise this cumbersome device from the ground, and only Mahmud could manage it. So now this kite, apart from the big basic the rhombus shape of the kite, there was other strings attached which had other small rhombuses which were decreasing in size, and they were as a tail of the kite. And it was a very heavy kite. It was quite cumbersome. That means it was quite difficult to raise that kite in the sky, and it was Mahmud in his prime time, in his youth, he was able to do, and only Mahmud was the one who could manage it to raise the kite from the ground to the sky. Everyone had heard of the dragon kite that Mahmud had built, and word went around that it possessed supernatural powers. A large crowd assembled in the open to watch its first public launching in the presence of the Nawab. Now they're talking of another kite which he had made. Mahmud had once made a kite called Dragon Kite, and it was, people said, the people had, on seeing the dragon kite, they were spreading in whispers that kite possessed some certain supernatural powers also, and the large crowd used to gather around to watch this public display of the launching of that kite. Okay, at the first attempt, it refused to leave the ground. Now, so now, when he started to fly that dragon kite, in the beginning, it refused to leave the ground. That means it did not rise up. Now, later on, the disc made the plaintive protesting sound, and the sun was trapped in the little mirrors and, and made of the kite a living, complaining creature. So now they are telling you that the kite with its disc and plaintive working, it appeared as it was swirling, the mirrors which were placed on the kite had a glittering effect of the sunlight falling on it, and it appeared as if the kite was a living creature and it was complaining that it could not rise up. So the dragon kite in the beginning refused to leave the ground, okay? And then the wind came from the right direction, and the dragon kite soared into the sky, wriggling its way higher and higher, with the sun still glinting in its devil eyes. Now, since the sun was trapped, it refused to fly in the beginning. Now, did the kite actually refuse? No, it was just away since the wind was not in the proper direction, and everybody around assumed that it had supernatural powers. They just superficially, in a superstitious way, they believed it to be a devilish creature with the light of the sun trapped in the eyes in the form of a mirror, which were placed on that kite. It appeared to the people as it was a devil. And when it went very high, it pulled fiercely on the twine, and Mahmud's young son had to help him with the reel. But still the kite pulled, determined to be free, to break loose, to live a life of its own, and eventually it did so. So now they are telling you that kite, which was so popular among the crowd in those times, firstly, it refused to leave the ground. Finally, with the correct direction of the wind, when it at all rose up, it was a uh, very devilish kite in a sense that it did not agree to the norms of a basic kite, and it it was determined to get itself free. It was too heavy, and finally it broke the reel. And in spite of the two sons of Mahmud helping him out with the kite was pulled away from the twine, and it broke, and it got itself break loose. Okay. Now the twine snapped, the kite leaped away towards the sun, sailed on heavenward until it was lost to view. So now here they are saying once the kite was set loose, it appeared as if it is going towards the sun. Was it actually going? No. Once the kite is flying high and if the reel gets cut, it will automatically just flash away into the ground. But since it kept waving in the sky for a pretty long time, it appeared as if it was engulfed by the sun. Okay, so uh, there's a vivid imagery here which shows that once you close your eyes, you can imagine the kite, how the dragon kite looked, and how it must have behaved. Okay, okay, leaped away towards the sun, and it was gradually lost. It was never found again, and Mahmud wondered afterwards if he made too vivid, too living a thing of the great kite. He did not make another like it, and instead he presented to the Nawab a musical kite, one that made a sound like a violin when it rose in the air. So the next another very important kite which he made was, apart from the kite, he never tried making another of the same kind, the dragon kite. He never made again. Instead, he presented the Nawab in those times, who was fond of flying, with another kite which was known as the musical kite, as it gave a sound effect when it flew. Okay, when it rose up in the sky, it made a sound of a violin. Okay, now those were more leisurely, more spacious days, but the For the Nawab had died years ago, and his descendants were almost as poor as Mahmud himself. Kite makers, like poets, once had their patrons, but now no one knew Mahmud simply because there were too many people in the gully and they could not be bothered with their neighbors. So now again, the writer Ruskin Bond here makes a comparison of the olden times with the present. He says the Nawabs have died. That means now there are no more hierarchy. We have a democracy here in India now. There are no kings and queens, no Nawabs. So all were treated equally. Apart from that, the forefathers, I mean, the next generations of the Nawabs were poor people. They were not as rich as the Nawabs of the earlier times. Apart from this, there were less patrons. That means the kite makers, the poets, etc., had patrons. Patrons means उनकी क्या कहते हैं उनकी uh, you know to appreciate. There were less people to appreciate this art, like poetry. Earlier, the poets were there in the king's court. Later on in the new life, in the new times, there were no patrons, there were no people who praised or appreciated the work of a poet or the kite maker. So they all lived an obscure life. Obscure means unnoticed, unidentified, they remained. And apart from being unidentified and uh, unpraised, they were also living in a pathetic condition. That means a poor life. When Mahmud was younger and had fallen sick, everyone in the neighborhood had come to ask after his health. But now, when his days were drawing to a close, no one visited him. True, most of his old friends were dead and his sons had grown up. One was working in a local garage, and the other had been in Pakistan and at the time of partition and had not been able to rejoin his relatives. The children who had bought kites from him 10 years ago were now grown men, struggling for living. They did not have time for the old man and his memories. We stop here for today. So now, in the old age, Mahmud is thinking of the times when he had fallen sick, and the whole crowd in the village and the neighborhood used to come and visit him about his health. But now, nobody takes care. All are busy. His friends had died long time because he's a old man. So that means most of his friends are dead. And his two sons, one is working in a local garage, and the other was long time back at the time of partition had stayed back in Pakistan and had not returned to join his relatives back. And the children whom he used to sell kites 10 years before were now grown up and they were all working out for their living. So they were no longer interested in the kite flying activity. So he cherishes his old times, and the old man remembers in the form of his good memories of the past. We stop here for today. We'll come back to the class next time and finish off the chapter. I hope this